How's it going, everyone? Welcome back. Hopefully, everyone is having a lovely day. The Bengals quickly becoming faced with a lot of big decisions this offseason regarding contracts and some finances with this football team. Bengals clearly in a position to make another run for a Super Bowl. Every penny counts. That being said, is it time to start talking about if the Cincinnati Bengals should release Joe Mixon this offseason? Now, aside from the off the field distractions, just looking at this guy from a pure running back, 65th in the league last year in yards per carry. His 0.11 forced missed tackles last season ranked 72nd among running backs last season. And it's really felt like now, for a few years, ever since, stopping to think about this, ever since Joe Mixon, his sophomore year, he went off. He was a stud. Bengals kind of fell apart. Bengals offensive line fell apart. I think we go in and year out saying, listen, line figures it out, offense figures it out, Joe Mixon's going to eat. We've been saying that for 3 years now. At some point in time, you kind of got to call it what it is and say, man, 3.9 yards per carry, 3.6, 4.1, 4. That's his last 4 years. And to be paying this guy top 10 running back in the league money to be putting up those numbers, it's not worth it, I don't think. And you see what this guy's doing. Again, I like Mixon. I think when he's playing at his best, he's playing confident out there. He's seeing the lanes, he's seeing the gaps, and he's playing with that feisty energy. He's a stud. But it feels like these last few years, it's been off and on quite consistently with him. A lot of times we're not seeing that. When we see it, it's like, wow, watch this guy play. You know, I felt like we're seeing in that Buffalo Bills game. But then there's the games where it's just we see him missing the holes. We see him running into his own guys. And you look and say, hey, what Joe Mixon's doing for this football team right now is he's being paid to be your downhill runner. He's being paid to be your pure runner. And that's not really been a secret that, you know, they look at P. Ryan in the pass block game. They've always kind of looked somewhere else in the pass block game. He's improved. Joe Mixon has definitely gotten better at pass blocking in years recent. He's gotten better at catching the ball out of the backfield in years recent. But again, I don't think any of us really look at Mixon and say he's that pass catching dynamic running back. And that's okay. And he's not that dynamic, that nasty pass blocker either. And again, that's okay. The problem is, though, when you pay a guy $10 million, when you can save $7 million on the cap next season by finding somebody else that can do the same job he's doing for far less. And I think that's where the Bengals have to start questioning things and saying, hey, if we can keep P. Ryan around to be that pass blocking third down guy, or hey, you know what I'd really like to see is the way Chris Evans kind of just fell out of the fold for the Bengals last season. He didn't get a single carry. He had 3 receptions, averaged 12 yards per reception on those plays. The year before, he was averaging 4.5 yards per carry. Again, very, very small sample size. But they drafted this guy out of Michigan, and it really felt like he was one of those, you know, I think as Bengals fans, he was like, we hope this guy can be that elusive Giovanni Bernard type of guy for this team. Never really got a chance to see him step up. Would they give him an opportunity to be a third-year back now to, again, not be the starter, but if he could be a guy that works in his pass block, he'd be a third down guy. He's a guy you look and say, if you can get this guy into open space, he's a dynamic type of running back. And you start to play the game that I think a lot of teams that become Super Bowl contenders play. You don't drop this or you don't sign this all-in-one, 3-for-1 running back that blocks well out of the backfield, well, runs well. You don't play that game because that costs you $15, $20 million a year, 10, 15, whatever. It depends. You know, Mixon a few years back when he signed. You try to pick those guys up. Like, again, you get the P. Ryan that's great in the pass block and catch, and he can run if you need to. Cheap, low contract. And then if you can get a first, second down back that, again, can grind out the yards, gets you somewhere closer to, you know, that 4.3, 4.5 yards per carry. And there's guys out there like that are splitting workload somewhere that can sign a much cheaper contract. You say, all right, we go there and we can save $3 or $4 million on a cap, spend that elsewhere. And again, and it's a Cincinnati Bengals team that is trying to make the absolute most out of their cap in this tight window, if you will, when it comes to the salary cap expediter situation and the Super Bowl window. Again, we think the Bengals, Joe Burrow, Super Bowl contenders for a long time, but when it comes to things being cheap, that window's closing. You say, hey, $3-4 million, that's a lot. And I think you can more than replace what Joe Mixon's produced these last couple of seasons. I like the guy. I hope he goes somewhere and he's successful. But you can't pay a guy until he proves that to you. You can't consistently pay him, I don't think. I think you need to bring somebody else in. I think the Bengals would be best off doing that. We'll see. Love your guys' thoughts. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you next time.